Hi, good morning. It's Mark Owen from Moose Marketing and PR, the editor of Punchline magazine. Welcome to Punchline Talks. It's an opportunity for us to get a panel of experts from across the county to talk about the news and views that affect us all. And I've got a fantastic panel with us today. I'd like to introduce Ryan Hancock, who's a partner at Hazlewoods and a regular on the show. Vikki Walters, who's got the longest job title in the history of job titles, which I have to pick it up and read it, which is Strategic Lead of Inclusion Employment Integrated Disabilities Commissioning Hub for Gloucestershire County Council. That's a big business card, Vikki. Welcome. And we have Richard Neale who's a company director of Box. I'm sure he'll tell us all about that. And delighted also to welcome Phillip Bishop from Perry Bishops of Chambers, letting agents and estate agents. Anyway, welcome guys. Thanks ever so much for joining us today at Punchline Talks. So you can all have a big hello. Hi guys. I'm going to start I'm going to start off with you, Richard, if that's okay. Going through the national papers. What have you picked out for us today?
Well, I think there's an awful lot to be proud of this week in the newspapers, and undoubtedly the big news and the big success story is the vaccine. Wonderful news. And I suppose the thing for me about this is that whatever you think about it, the UK have got themselves mobilised and being able to be the first country to actually be able to offer the vaccine. And I think that's a tremendous coup. There's all this shenanigans going on with the Europeans and Brexit and so forth. And our dear friend in America, Mr. Fauci, has come out yesterday and criticised our lack of due diligence in being ready for the vaccine. But I understand overnight he's actually sort of tempered his comments somewhat. So that's actually quite interesting. And he didn't say that we were being slack and we were being, not careful enough with our due diligence. I think, if you look at our own medical facilities in terms of the what's needed to actually approve it, to actually get it done and the speed it's been done is absolutely astonishing. And to achieve the success that it's achieved in terms of its 95%. The speed it's being rolled out is fantastic. There were lorries leaving Belgium yesterday, coming over to the UK, and I gather there's goodness knows how many doses already in the UK, going to secret places, so I understand. So they're trying to keep sort of protesters and objectors away from storming the supplies and stuffing up the supply line, which probably tells its own story. So it is going to polarise opinions, but I think on balance, it has to be a hugely successful story and a great feather in the cap for the UK medical systems and the government.
That's right. It's going to be a game changer for everybody in business, isn't it? Let's be honest about it. It's just fingers crossed it rolls out very, very quickly. Thanks for picking that then. So Vikki, you're on my screen next. So can you tell us what stories you picked out for this morning, please?
Yeah. So I'm going to bring it 24-hour shopping. So lots and lots of information around or news stories around the 24-hour shopping and the fact that now the shops can open for 24 hours. And then on another page, there was an article about encouraging people to shop locally. And I'm just kind of like wondering how those two will balance. So are we driving people away from the local high streets by encouraging them to go to the big stores? Like there's queues, massive queues outside of Primark in Lakeside. So that's kind of the story that I picked up.
There's nothing wrong with shopping at Primani, Vikki. You buy a £3 shirt and you put a £100-200 suit with it. That's what you do.
Well, yeah, that's your choice. But 24-hour, so it's really the 24-hour shopping versus the local high street and how that's going to kind of pan out, I guess, over the next few weeks.
Now, I know that someone told me, because you told me actually, that you've moved from Dursley over to Lydney. Obviously, you've got the Mecca Sainsbury's in Dursley. I'm very fond of Dursley, by the way, and I can't believe that you're leaving the Bank Cafe, which is one of the best cafes in Gloucestershire, if you ask me, and you're going to Lydney. Why have you moved, Vic? Just a quickie.
Why have I moved?
Yeah.
Well, I like the forest. I've always kind of I come from just the other side of the Severn Bridge, but we've got Hips Social Cafe in Lydney. So I don't know whether you've been there, but that's there's a little plug for Hips. But yeah, plenty of lovely little cafes around.
Good stuff. Okay, thanks very much, Vikki. Phil, what have you picked out for us, please?
Good morning. Well, this is a little story which I think is probably a little bit more interesting than it might seem. The demise of cash may be weeks away. The UK will sleepwalk into a cashless society unless the government legislates to make it mandatory for shops to accept banknotes. Labour have said the pandemic has accelerated the transition and the demise of cash entirely could be as soon as weeks away.
Well, what newspaper is that, please?
That's in the Eye. And that's fascinating, isn't it? And actually, personally, I struggle with cash because I just find it annoying because I've stopped walking around with a handbag and, debit cards and credit cards are a lot easier, and contactless for me is just the best invention in the world. But there are some people in my in-laws who don't have a debit card and they're not particularly old. So I think there's very, very interesting ramifications there for how we live our lives. And it was probably inevitable, but it does seem it's coming a bit quicker than, one of the things from COVID.
So everything is coming quicker from COVID, though, isn't it? The whole high street's changing from COVID. Well, so much stuff is going to leap forward 5 or 10 years, the way that society has moved, really.
And it's not going to go back, is it? And it's terribly sad about the high streets, and we walk around our high streets, and we know they're decimated in some areas, and not one high street or marketplace is unaffected. But sadly, that trend is very hard to reverse it, and habits have changed, and I just think we're going to see different high streets and marketplaces that might be a combination of housing and shopping. Sadly, we might lose a bit of the community.
Well, let's come back to you in a second on that, because obviously you've got lots of shops, retail shops on the high street, not retail shops, estate agents on the high street. Come back to that second, please. Ryan, good morning, sir.
Morning. How's things?
Yes, good. So what have you picked out for us?
Well, the big one for me really is the pressure that's been that the big supermarkets have succumbed to, or at least Tesco's at the moment anyway, with their almost promise, I guess, to return their rates bill that they had that they were allowed to waive. So that was that 585 million support that they received. You've got to wonder how long it is before the other supermarkets capitulate and do the same thing, because apparently, again, so the newspapers are reporting that represents 1/6 of the whole rates waiving that the government let. So that's a massive amount of money that could end up back in the government's coffers.
That's a fantastic story, yes. And I think Sainsbury's have promised to give their money back as well. That's around 400 million. So following on, have you got something else?
Yeah.
Have you picked out another story?
Was that me? Sorry.
Yes, right. So yeah, have you got another one?
Yeah, sorry, I've got a little bit of a delay on my feed. I think the other story I picked out was to do with Hayes, the car manuals, which seem to have stopped printing manuals now, and they're going a little bit electronic. I think earlier on in the year they were bought out by a French company who have done a bit of a reshuffle. So that's a bit of a sad one, I'm afraid. But yeah, it looks like manuals may be no more from the Hayes people.
I always struggled with the Hayes manuals. I'll be honest with you, I struggle with any manual. Give me an Airfix box, and I always glued in the pilot the wrong way around, or glued in the wheels of an aeroplane. But there you go, that's just me, really. So Ryan, obviously you work for Hazlewoods. What's it been like for you guys over the last couple of over this last month? And is there anything that your clients are telling you that's changing in the marketplace?
Well, first of all, from our own point of view, we've obviously been working remotely during this second lockdown, or predominantly remotely. So we are looking forward to getting back to some normality, which has only been the last couple of days into it, really. From the client's perspective, everyone's just trying to keep business pushing as normal, as close to normal as they possibly can. This time round is a very, very different feel to the first time round. There's much less panic, let's say, than there was the first time. Everyone was a bit more prepared for it, and for the most part, apart from those areas which are obviously going to struggle, the hospitality sort of areas, they seem to have weathered this one much better than the first one. Certainly, we're not seeing the inflow of help required that they did the first time round. Everyone was completely in the dark when back at the end of March, beginning of April. This time around, they seem to be set up much better. Seems to have gone much smoother. It's got its own problems, like it always was going to. But yeah, it seems, now we've all pretty much got past this second lockdown, or in theory anyway, that things are in a much better place than where they were the first time around.
Now, this might not be your area of expertise, I don't know, but we are expecting, I was talking to a redundancy, not redundancy, but a company that deals with bankruptcies and insolvencies. There are expecting on the downside, a great amount of companies going bust in January, February. Is that the kind of thing you're hearing as well?
Yeah, there is a big worry about that sort of side of things. Obviously, any support that was given has to be repaid back at some point. We've got tax payments due at the end of January for personal tax. People were deferring their July payments, so might have to dig deep come January. And repaying some of the loans, which are supposed to start next year, deferment of VAT, which is supposed to start again March, April time. And all of that is going to start impacting cash. So if you haven't been able to squirrel away a bit of cash to start looking forward for that, then it's going to start hurting. A lot of businesses are hoping that Christmas is going to be a big push for sales, certainly in the retail sector, and maybe they're relying on that. But I think there is going to be some collateral damage as a result of this. There's no way that it's going to work for everybody. So I think people are being set up and prepared for, and you mentioned redundancies, but there are going to be some. There's no doubt that the fact that furlough is being pushed forward to March is just a help, but also a bit of a delaying tactic. It's going to happen. We just need to, like the virus in general, we just need to try and, put a ceiling on how difficult that's going to be for people.
Thanks, Ryan. I always value your expertise. Cheers, mate. And Phil, let's go to you, please, sir. So, how many estate agents have you actually got on the high street?
We have 6 offices.
And how many people do you employ?
55.
Someone's got a sound a bit loud there. Someone could just turn it down or... Anyway, so Phil, so you've got 75 staff, 6 offices. What's it been like for you? I mean, all the people I've talked about, the estate agent business, it's gone absolutely bonkers. So what's it like?
We've all had a weird year, haven't we? 2020 is going to be looked on and read about and studied for years to come, because it's changed the way we work, the way we live, where we live, where we work, all those things. So obviously the first half of the year was awful. We had the lockdown, nothing could happen, and it was all looking a bit bleak, and we were restructuring and resizing the business. We completely underestimated the pent-up demand. We came back on May the 25th, and we were blown away by the appetite to move house. And something we just didn't see coming was a southeast exodus. And it's almost like one of those movies where everybody's just leaving a particular town or city, and not quite like that, but we would sell 5 to 10% of our properties in Gloucestershire to a southeast buyer, and that's about somewhere between 30 and 40% now. So people are saying, look, we just want to get out of London. That whole sort of cheek by jowl living is a bit difficult with COVID. And then even when COVID's hopefully gone, or we've got a vaccine, which is all good news, people just don't need to live in a slightly compromised location, or we've all learned how to use Zoom. So we're doing that this morning, and now it just works, doesn't it? And the whole lifestyle thing is quite interesting, how that's changing. But people have fallen in or out of love with where they lived in lockdown. So garden centres and DIY stores have done really well, because you either want to make your house even better and your garden better, or actually we're going to move and do something about it. And then the government, I don't think it was needed, but put in a stamp duty holiday. I guess the whole economy is helped by people moving home, and we've been incredibly blessed and fortunate to keep trading through the second lockdown. I don't think we needed a stamp duty holiday, but my goodness, has that accelerated the market. And if you were sort of, shall I, shan't I move, the no stamp duty makes a huge difference to somebody's move.
Now, I've heard through the grapevine from various different people that and talked to a lot of solicitors, a lot of estate agents, and it's a bit dog eat dog out there at the moment. There's a real battle for business going on. Is that what it's like?
I think it's a fight to win. The listings, new stock to the market has been in short supply. That's been quite challenging. But actually, the biggest problem we have is the system's overwhelmed. So, we normally have about 1 million transactions in the country, at any one stage. This year, that'll probably be 1.3 million, which doesn't sound a lot more. But if you think there were 3 months of no transactions at all, if that was running normally, we would have been at, probably 1.6, 1.7 million. So at the moment, we've got probably 80, 90% more sales under offer going through than we normally have at this time of the year. And that has its challenges. We've recruited more people. Well, that's a nice problem to have. But solicitors, surveyors, mortgage lenders, local authorities with searches, for a couple of months, we've been saying the system's a bit overwhelmed. Actually, it's almost broken now. It's really clogged up.
Right. Yeah. Thanks ever so much for that, Phil. Right, Vikki, we'll no, sorry, I'll go back to Richard, actually. Richard, sorry. Thanks, Phil. Richard, I'd like to bring you in. I didn't explain what OpsBox is. I thought I'd give you the opportunity. One of the things I would mention that you and your business partner, Hayley, launched OpsBox at the very start of the pandemic. I saw your press release and saw your story, and I thought you were absolutely bonkers, as everyone was hunkering down if you want to know the truth. But you've done tremendously well. Can you tell us about OpsBox, please, and what that is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, we did, right. We started it in February this year as an essential business support services around planning, operations, people, finance and growth. And I have to say, and thank you to Punchline, we did a feature with you, which was probably one of the first piece of advertising things that we did. And it got a great feedback, and we thank you for that. So that was the start of our sort of promotional launch this year. In terms of how it's worked for us, we've had to shift a little bit in terms of how we thought it would be, obviously, because we haven't been able to get out there and see clients. There's been apart from the middle spell of the summer when we did a little bit, but it's in terms of the support that business needs that the change has really happened. Businesses have obviously been in very difficult situations, and the support model has been absolutely key to it. And where we have seen success is the recognition that a lot of these businesses have had business plans, they've got business ideas, but they haven't been able to change, to adapt, to look at those plans and operationalize those plans in light of what's happened. And I think that's where we've seen benefit, and that's where we've seen the potential to help businesses out. People who know me personally will know that I had a long career with one of the high street banks, so finance is also one of my things. And we thought we were going to get involved in finance quite a lot this year. And then, of course, the government stepped in again and provided the CBILS and the bounce back loans, which were very well handled in the main. So again, we've had to shift a little bit in terms of what we're doing there. So we're now able to source and provide commercial finance for people, which we think is important going into next year, continuing from what Ryan said, because we don't know where we're going to be next year. The government funding will eventually run out at some stage. It's got to be repaid. There will be financial needs, and there will be a requirement for businesses to have maybe alternative avenues to seek finance next year. I think that's going to be really important.
And how do you find working with your business partner? Because when you start a new company, I don't know whether you and Hayley worked together before, but it is a challenge.
It almost sounds like a leading question mark.
Sorry, mate.
I have to say, it's been fantastic. I mean, although we both came from the same background, we never worked together. So working together has been a new sort of thing. And I suppose the biggest adjustment for us is that, it's 9 or 10 months since we've seen this business and started this business. And we've probably had 4 or 5 months of that when we haven't been able to even see each other. So that has been difficult. So we've become Zoom slaves like everyone else. We've got Teams fatigue and all the rest of it, but we've had to do it that way, and we've had to pivot and adjust. And in fairness, it's worked really well. And I think those that have adapted, embraced, and gone with it have probably generally fared better than others. So it's been not what we expected, but looking back on the first year, I would say we're really pleased, and it has been great fun. You've got to remember to have great fun despite everything around us.
I think it's a great way to stop there. Thanks, Richard, for that. That brings me very nice to Vikki, because great fun. I've known Vikki for, we've been talking about this, at least 9 or 10 years, and she is a champion for helping people with disabilities into work. Vikki, can you just give an overview of what you do, please?
Yeah. So my long job title. So we have some projects, Gloucestershire County Council, which are inclusive employment projects, the Gloucestershire Gem projects, which some of you may have heard of, and also Forwards. So my role is to kind of oversee all of the employment work for those who are kind of marginalised in the labour market. So that's young people who are not in education and training, young carers, care leavers, people with disabilities. So that you know, whole broad range of people, carers. So we have projects which cover all of that. So, oh my gosh, I didn't.
The ice cream van.
That's my computer.
I love the sheer panic on her voice.
So sorry.
I have a 9 to 9, Vikki.
It's gone. Jabba is gone. So yeah, so we have a range of projects. So I mean, COVID for us has really kind of, for me, it's been about that community. So we work with the voluntary and community sector, we work with private sector, and obviously work with public sector. So for us, we've maintained all of our projects throughout the whole period. We moved to a virtual platform, obviously, because we couldn't see people. We have returned back to seeing people on a face-to-face, but that was short-lived because obviously lockdown came in. So we've gone back. We've launched the Gem online, which supports people. It could be anything from yoga right the way through to full careers days. It's allowed us to be really imaginative about how we actually support people. It's obviously there are major issues in the sense of unemployment has kind of like gone through the roof. Well, it hasn't gone through the roof yet. It's increased significantly. Potentially it will go through the roof. That presents challenges, but it also presents opportunities. So the government has been pumping money into employment programs like the Kickstart program, the new Restart program, which was announced recently as well. So yeah, so we've maintained that kind of positive attitude. There have been people getting jobs throughout lockdown. We have seen people going into work. The workforce has been outstanding. I mean, I'm proud to kind of, you know, do what I do because the workforce have been amazing and so very agile.
Now we have a large business audience, as you know, so this is your 30 seconds as a, if you've got a chance to talk to the business community, you know, thousands of people watching, hopefully, fingers crossed, or maybe my mum. What do you say to my mum, Mutti?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would say that we have a lot of people out there who need a job, but please don't discount those who have additional barriers, like people with disabilities, young people who are, you know, not in education and training, because they have a lot to offer. So please don't discount them and just pluck that person, you know, with the degree. Think about your business and think about or how a person can actually, what it will bring. So it's that kind of moving away from kind of easy recruitment. Keep working with us, I would say. Keep working with us because we do want to become a really inclusive county.
Well, I know that you're benchmark for the UK Gloucestershire County Council and the work that you do, Vikki, and I just want to say, you know, fantastic and well done, because I know it's not easy. And I know that how persuasive you are, and you've managed to drag me into lots of things over the years. But, and I would like to take this point actually to say a big thank you to Gloucestershire County Council and to all the people that work there and to all the borough councils, because I think they've actually done an amazing job in the community during this pandemic. And sometimes I think they're a kind of forgotten force of good. You know, they always get a lot of criticism for this and that. There's been an awful lot of good work, and for the people who are also, you know, having to deal with that on the front line that we don't see, I just want to say a big thank you from myself and hopefully from other Punchline and the business community. Right, moving swiftly on, we're going to talk very quickly about stories that appeared in Punchline. Anything that caught your eye? Ryan, we'll go back over to you, sir. What's caught your eye this week in actually Punchline?
Bit of good news actually. You know, we've all known for many years that Stroud has been struggling a little bit with their retail and business, and it looks like there's some positive movement in the Five Valleys indoor market, where there's got some new businesses popping up. So really good for Stroud. Really good that there seems to be a bit of an appetite to move back in there. So brilliant.
Yeah, they spent a small fortune, and you are right. It's really looking good. Just like to add on that, and by the thanks of G First LEP as well, they put an awful lot of money to support that. Thanks very much. Philip, what's caught your eye, please?
Can you, sorry, Mark, can you go to Richard?
Yes, sorry, Rich.
Yeah, I've just got a problem with my technology.
Okay, no worries at all. Richard, what's caught your eye?
You know, that was almost seamless because I was going to mention the Stroud market as well. Living just outside Stroud, I'm very conscious of that, and I think it's a nice link also in the whole piece of this think local to keep giving this Christmas and the initiatives that started. You know, we've got the shop the local advent calendar with Gloucester City Council and the Gloucestershire bid, and we've got all the borough councils and stuff opening their car parks for free car parking and so forth. But further than that, which is all great stuff to encourage people to buy local, and that's what we really want. These businesses have, you know, they put themselves out there to service the community earlier in the year. They've suffered latterly when the supermarkets have been able to trade, and often they haven't. So, you know, I think we've got a responsibility as business people to absolutely support our own. I really care about local businesses. We work in that community. And also to look at these businesses, the Stroud Valley Indoors Market's a classic one. They do a delivery service now. So why not look at them at sourcing some Christmas presents, get them home delivered. There's a carbon element around the delivery process as well, which is another thing. And I think all things highlighted in Punchline this week, but really strong messages about local business.
Thanks very much. Yeah, we try and find the positives if we can. Thanks very much. I'll pass back over to Philip. You got to turn your sound back on, Phil, please. There we go.
There's an interesting article about electric aircraft with Safran supplying the, well, they're an aerospace engine and components firm based at Staverton. And, you know, we know the whole electric vehicle thing is, you know, gaining more and more momentum. And there was some news this morning that our government is looking to be, you know, we're world leading in terms of our aspirations with what we're trying to achieve. And you know, we mustn't forget it's not just cars and normal vehicles. It will go into trucks and other stuff, but also aircraft. And that, can you imagine being in an aircraft that's flying with a battery? But that's the way the world's going to go. And probably by the time my children are adults, and maybe when they've got their own children, we probably will fly in aircraft without normal engines.
Yeah, I thought it was a great positive story actually, because the avionics industry is so important here to Gloucestershire, and of course all we've had is bad news that we haven't been able to fly, and a lot of the companies are actually paid by the amount of mileage that the planes do. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a great story. Vikki, what have you picked out from Punchline this week, please?
So mine would obviously be the Chamwell Centre. Based out in Long Levens. It's a brand new centre. I mean, they raised over £5 billion to build this, and it provides activities and therapies for people with disability, but they're also going to be opening it for the community. So it's going to provide jobs, it's going to provide work experience, it's going to provide the community with some amazing facilities. So to be honest, I can't wait to go out and see it because it's state of the art. It's the only one in the country. So you know, it's going to be really interesting.
Well, thanks very much for that. The story that grabbed me on our website actually this week was a Cirencester-based fabrication service, Cirencester Fabrication Services. Really nice chap called Mark Bragg, who I interviewed, and we ran the story, I think it was Tuesday. He bought the business during the pandemic. It's just off Love Lane. Been down there lots of times to that business park. And I just thought it was a fantastic, you know, someone else investing here in Gloucestershire. He's from New Zealand. He's put his money where his mouth is, and he's helped turn around a business and save those jobs as well. And a really, really nice guy. Had a great chat about Welsh rugby with him as well. Anyway, that brings it to the end of today. Thank you ever so much for joining us today on Punchline Talks. And I'd like to thank the panel as well.